Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Olympus has fallen, or really more correctly, Babylon has fallen. I know there's a lot of things going on right now that you probably might want to hear more about than this one, but I think that this is a very, very serious thing that we have to address and talk about. And that's what's going on in Washington over the last couple of days, over this past weekend. I know that many of you have seen this. I've talked about it a little bit on here. It is all over Twitter. So if you have a Twitter account, I'm sure you've probably seen lots of this stuff. But I know that some of you don't. And I know that some of you, if you're not on certain platforms and stuff that share these types of videos, you just don't, maybe you just don't know what's going on. And let me give you a rundown. And I'm going to let you know, I'm not going to show any of the videos. Okay, I've got them. In fact, I've gone through as best as I can, and I've captured a lot of these videos, mostly just for, I guess you could call it, historical preservation of it. They are absolutely grotesque. They are absolutely, it is probably some of the worst things you've ever seen, especially considering that it's at our nation's capital. Now, for those of you that are still a little in the dark of what I'm talking about, this past weekend, Washington, D.C. held its D.C. Pride event. It's gay pride, transgender pride, LGBTQ, whatever pride. And they had a big parade, and it was, man, I don't know. When I watched I've watched some of these videos of the actual parade, there's just like this dark, evil spirit. You can just feel it. It's horrible. There's the level of debauchery that is going on. The sexual perversion is, I mean, it's over the top. And I'm going to be very careful about the words that I use and stuff, because I know that a lot of you have children watching in the background or maybe with you. So I am going to be very careful about that. It's awful. It's absolutely awful, the stuff that was going on. And of course, it was a big parade. There was children all over the place. You can easily see in all of the videos that was taken of it, that there's just children everywhere. There were, of course, lots and lots of men dressed up as women, men and women with most, if not all, of their body parts exposed, doing very awful things in public. And it went even further than that, because I know a lot of you are saying, well, there's all kinds of videos and stuff out there, and we know that these people do all these, horrible, perverted things. That's true, but there's also videos of them doing these sexually perverted things with, a cross, pole dancing on it, using it as, and I don't even know how to say it without just saying it, using it as a sexual device. I'm trying to be very careful, because I'm very respectful of the fact that there's possibly children watching this, with their parents and grandparents and stuff. I know for a fact, because you tell me. It was over the top, but that wasn't the worst, okay? It was horrible. Yesterday afternoon or so, some more videos started surfacing. At that same weekend, Joe Biden held a little party at the White House, on the White House lawn, and that's where many of you have seen the pictures where there's the White House with the two American flags and then the gay rainbow flag in the middle. He gave a speech. He called transgender people the bravest, and I can't even remember, the most important people in that him and Jill Biden were. It was just this disgusting love fest, talking about how that we see you and we recognize you and you deserve and all this kind of stuff. Well, they brought in a lot of the this is what I'm putting together, okay? A lot of the social media influencers, all these people on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and all these different places, that they are the very far left, a lot of them transgender media people. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And so to put it all together, there was, at the end of this video montage there at the White House, and they're very erotically dancing around. It was like a, and please excuse the word, it was like a big orgy. And then at the end, in front of the White House, so the backdrop is the White House, all of these transgender people, some of them are women that's had surgically altered to become, looking like a man, and some of them are men that have been surgically altered to try to look like women, right? And so at the end of it, they all take their tops off, so they're completely exposing themselves. And they're dancing around with the White House in the backdrop. So I know that there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's wars, and there's economy stuff, and there's disease and pandemics, and there's, all of this stuff going on, folks. I get it. And it's all awful. I just saw this morning that the Kansas wheat harvest will be the lowest amount since 1957. And the corn crop has just been decimated this year. There's all kinds of things going on. But how much more important is the very heart and soul and culture of a nation? Because this, what we're seeing is exactly and bound so closely with the spiritualness of a nation, of the people of the nation. And we're seeing this at our house, the people's house, the nation's, White House. It's the people's house. The disrespect, there's as much as I consider myself have gone through already the heartbreak of America dying quite a while back. But when I watched this yesterday, there was a heartache inside. My wife, I showed it to my wife, and my wife teared up. She said, because she's watching this country that she grew up loving and was, taught that it was this great free nation, and that this beacon on a hillside, and all of this, and look at it. Forget about it politically for a moment, and look at the good. I get it. America's done a lot of bad things. America's done lots and lots of bad things. But how much good has America done for this planet? How much of the gospel has been spread around this planet because of America? How much, how many people have been fed, and how many, sickness and all these things have been eliminated because of America? How much freedom? How many people have gotten to experience the most freedom that any human being has ever experienced because of America? So as many as, and I'll say there, I'm as critical as anyone of listing all the bad things that America's done in her past. But America has done a lot of good things. America has been for a while was the representation of what the best you could come up with as a nation. And we're watching it die right before our eyes, folks. Not just die because the dollar is losing its value. That can be fixed. I'm not saying it probably will be, but it can be. We're not just watching it die because of geopolitical mess ups and ridiculousness and global powers and all that. That can be fixed too. We're watching the actual soul of this nation. We're watching the absolute debauchery. We're watching the complete destruction of every kind of moral value. We're watching the destruction of family units, and this idea that there should be a family, a dad, a mom, a child, the children. That's the basis of all civilization, period, is the family unit. We're watching the destruction of that. We're watching the destruction of biblical values. The mockery, the outright mockery, absolute disgusting mockery of anything having to do with the Bible. In one of the videos, again, I'm trying not to be too descriptive. There's the guy, he's almost completely like, we're talking dental floss is about all he's wearing. And he's walking around with a crucifix within his mouth, doing all these things. And he's got a sign that says Mary Magdalene. Just things like that. Absolute disgusting. You know, you watch it and you're like, I'm just waiting for the moment that, you know, a bolt of lightning comes down on him or something because of it's just awful. This is happening in our nation's capital, okay? This is happening in Washington, D.C. And then the stuff that happened on the White House lawn, the very representation of the nation as a whole is the White House, the whole world. There's not a person on this planet that doesn't know what the White House is, that can't recognize it from a picture. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what goes on there, or what should go on there. Excuse me. I've been having a scratchy throat the last few days. Almost like laryngitis is starting to kind of set in, but I'll be fine. Let me get through this. Everyone knows what the White House represents or what it's supposed to represent. And here we're seeing the complete disregard for every tradition, everything that's ever been done, all the men that have bled and died, fought for this nation. And that White House represents them. And now it's like they're just flushing it down the toilet. We are watching this nation fall. If you want to argue with me that you think that I'm wrong about that I'm wrong that this nation is falling, you're welcome to try, but I can tell you you're not going to convince me otherwise. Does that mean that we're going to fall right away? Does that mean that we're going to collapse here soon? Maybe not. I'll admit that it could take years. It could take years. It could take years to see the nation fall. But I don't think that it's going to. I don't think that it's going to be years. Why do you think China and Russia are making their moves? Why do you think that 3 or 4 dozen now, at least 3 dozen nations have indicated that they're either interested and walking away from the US dollar, or have just flat out said it. Flat out said it. I mean, you've got the top 3 nations with the largest oil reserves on the planet are Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. They've all joined up. You've got China and even China and India are working together. India and Pakistan are coming together. The whole Middle East, like with the exception of Israel, the whole Middle East is becoming this big old peace fest. And then Israel really is kind of part of it because they're buddying up with Russia a lot. I mean, we're watching. I mean, every time you hear of some kind of conflict, who do you hear the one coming to the rescue or the one that's attempting to bring peace? It's not the United States anymore. It's China. China's the one going around bringing about world peace. It's not the United States anymore. There's no respect anymore for this country. Do you really think that any decent world leader, any masculine, tough world leader, any world leader any period, can see this stuff that's been broadcast for the whole world to see, and they're going to have any respect for America or any respect for our leadership? We're watching America collapse right before our eyes. It's no surprise that China wants to fight us. It's no surprise that Russia isn't afraid of us. It's not about how many guns and bullets and bombs and everything everyone has. It's the fact that they know that our leadership is done. It doesn't matter how good or how bad our military is. If the leadership is rotten, then it's all rotten. It's rotten from the top down, and they know it. They see the weakness. They see America's weakness. And at this point, I'm almost thinking, would it be any worse to live under the reign of them? I mean, I know what you're going to say. Yes, it would be worse. Yeah, probably it would be worse. But would we be seeing this kind of stuff? I mean, This is awful. This is over the top, absolutely over the top awful. Like nothing that I've ever seen in my life compares to this when it comes to the debauchery and the evilness and I mean, they might as well have just erected a big statue to Moloch himself and started bringing in the babies. I mean, that was the last thing that they needed to do. Everything else is already being done. And of course, there's children around, and there's pictures and videos where these men that have like dental floss on are doing things and stuff, and the mothers are holding their babies, and they're like, oh, look, isn't that cute? Can you imagine this going on in this nation? It's like we went from being not really good anymore to accepting the sin into our lives. And man, sin, it's just like when you're making bread, you add some yeast and you add some sugar, it exploded. Sin has exploded. We went from things being, well, that's not really proper and that's kind of sinful and that shouldn't do that, to we're just feeding our children now to the evilness. And it's being done on the White House lawn. Like, they're taking their clothes off and dancing around naked. It's like watching some kind of pagan, ancient, Olympus. It's like watching the Greeks, or even worse, maybe the Babylonians and stuff. I mean, they're literally topless, dancing around on the front lawn of the White House for the whole world to see. Can anyone see this? Can anyone see the horrificness of this? Can anyone see that we are watching this nation collapse right before our eyes? I can't imagine at this point, even though I thought this maybe days earlier, now that I've seen all this, I cannot imagine this nation ever turning around. I don't believe for a moment that electing a new person, I mean, we're talking, that'd be 2 years almost 2 years from now. If a new president, whether it be Trump or DeSantis or anyone else, if a new president is to be elected, it'll be almost 2 years before that president actually sits in office, a little more than a year and a half. Do you realize the amount of destruction that's going to be done to this country? Do you realize the amount of destruction? Because at this point, it's growing at almost like an exponential rate. It's just since Biden took office, the amount of stuff that's happened. It's absolute, just in the debauchery, sin, sexual perversion. I'm not talking about the war and the economy and all that kind of stuff. Just that stuff alone. Do you realize how bad it's going to be? And I look at the Republican candidates, and I'm not here to bash them and trash them, but I look at them and I see some good points, especially the two top ones. I see some like, okay, there's something good in there. Oh, they're strong in that. But do I see the level of strength that's needed to absolutely face this madness and this machine and this deep state and everything, and really have the power to turn it around and have the moral fortitude and strength to really stand up against it? No, I don't. I mean, Trump is very pro-gay. I mean, he may not be quite this bad and this far, but he's very pro-gay. He's not going to go too hard on him. This nation, it's done. It is done. And it's not just this nation, it's the whole West. There's video of over in England where these workers, these utility type workers, they're taking down British flags that are hung, in the city. They're taking them down, and they're putting up the gay rainbow flag. And there's this guy, he's like, don't you see what you're doing? He's like, I know, this is what we're ordered to do. And and here's the thing, it's not just that they're taking down the British flag, and I don't know what their flag etiquette is, but I would assume it's very similar to ours. They're taking down the British flag and putting up these gay rainbow flags. And when they take them down, they're not even putting them back, they're just letting them fall all the way to the ground. So here's this big British flag, and it just falls all the way to the ground and just lays there, and then they put up the next one. There's no respect anymore. There is no culture anymore. Because if this is what culture is, then I make a promise to you right now, I don't want any part of it. None. And yes, this is divisive, and yes, they're probably trying to get folks like I to rise up and to cause some kind of fight, and that's exactly what they're going to get at some point. That's exactly, it's going to happen at some point. This is absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to show any of the videos. If you want to see them, I can put them up privately and I'll send you a link. But I'm telling you, they're awful. They're absolutely awful. And we've watched. We're not watching it die. We're not watching our nation die. Our nation has died. It has died, in my opinion. And we're watching those, what do they call them, something that slipped my mind, that when someone's actually dead, but they're still kind of, you know, it's a reaction. And someone will pipe in the comments and tell me. That's basically what we're seeing happen. Now, how long will the brainless, you know, lifeless body lay there and go until it's finally done? I don't know. But that's what we're happening. So you better be getting ready. China is on the verge of wiping us out. The whole, you know, Iran, North Korea, Russia, Saudi Arabia, all these countries, they're ready to just take us out. And if nothing else, they see this repugnant debauchery as a virus, and if they don't take it out in some type of holy war, it could spread to their nations. And they see that, and I don't blame them. I feel the same way with my home. I don't blame them. And if it's going to happen, folks, we are going to, America, the wrath of God is going to, Ezekiel 25:17, Isaiah 26, can't remember the verse. Get in there and read it. It talks about his wrath on a nation that completely turns their back, that just mocks him. And it's going to be bad. It is going to be bad. Folks, you need to be getting your houses in order. You need to be preparing yourselves seriously, because I can't imagine at this point any kind of redemption because of this. We are headed for pain at this point. It's time to get ready, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.